Word on the street.
Hey, early birds. Nora
morning.
and Maya out on the street. What is the word on the street this morning?
Okay. So we're on Water Street right now. We're at Cody's Diner.
Oh,
Yep. Tuning into Love Babs Love Talk, of
give me
course.
some eggs.
Smells good in the parking lot out here. But today we have Jordan.
Good morning. My name is Jordan Petchy.
Beautiful. Perfect. What's the word on the street?
The word on the street today is that the SARS-CoV-2 concentrations in the wastewater are running low. And Cody's Diner makes a very good feta cheese omelet.
and how do you know about how do you know that information? Both of them.
Okay, so I'm a
Extend that
professor,
mic.
and my research group has been monitoring COVID wastewater in Connecticut and New Haven since March of 2020. Early on, I used to drive out here all the time to pick up samples. And then eventually we had a state contract where couriers would pick up samples all around. But we moved back just to monitoring New Haven. I pick up samples every week. I like to go out to the wastewater treatment plant and I bring them back to my students to run. At the beginning of the pandemic, I used to always drive by Cody's Diner. And they had pie, or they had some sign about pie. And I couldn't go in. I thought maybe I shouldn't go in, I'll get COVID, or maybe it was closed, I don't know. But I always wanted to go to Cody's Diner and get pie. And now, things are looking a little better. So every once in a while, I'll stop back at Cody's Diner and get breakfast on my way back to work. So I've been out to the treatment plant this morning. I got samples in the truck, and we're dropping them off, and you'll get the data tomorrow.
Oh, wow. And then on Monday, you'll talk to Paul about what you find.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying to check in if Babs is actually online.
I am. I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay.
All right. So tell us about the feta cheese omelet.
Well, I'm trying not to eat so much carbohydrates, so I went with the omelet, and it was great. It had feta cheese and spinach in it. I think 3 eggs.
Is that your regular order?
Usually I'll get, like home fries with sort of some eggs over easy, but I went with the omelet today so I could more focus on eating, the protein versus the home fries.
So you're all about health.
I'm getting older.
I'm curious to hear about your journey to becoming a Yale professor and studying public health teaching, working in the public health field as well.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in the western part of the United States. Grew up in a small town in northern Montana, right by the Canadian border. And I studied engineering, and I went to college. I liked chemistry and physics in high school, and I wanted to design rockets and missiles and bombs, I guess. I don't know. I was 8, 7.
What?
Well, I know. I never thought about it. I thought, F-16s are cool, and those missiles, those are awesome. And so I got to college, and I started studying mechanical engineering, and I liked it, but, I matured a bit, and I thought, maybe, I should try to, put my engineering skills to some good in the world. And I moved towards civil engineering and environmental engineering. I really liked it, so I like to do research. I went to graduate school, got some academic jobs, and finally, about 15 years, ended up at Yale.
Wow.
Have you found anything, or what's been most interesting that you found out when doing collecting the wastewater and whatnot?
I was really interested. We've been really fascinated by the fact that it actually works. And so we have done all kinds of different projects with pathogens in buildings, pathogens in drinking water. We even looked at pathogens in wastewater at something called sewage sludge. And so we knew that SARS-CoV-2 would be in sewage when the pandemic hit. But I always thought, well, we'll just probably detect it. Who knows if we'll be able to see anything about infections in the community. I've been so surprised that it's a really great indicator of infections. It's a little bit earlier than the testing data. It's cheap to do. One sample does 200,000 people.
Wow.
I've been impressed by. I know I'm supposed to say that. Oh yeah, of course this is going to work. I was impressed by the fact that it worked. Surprised.
What else do you find in those samples? What else turns up in samples?
You name it. It ends up in
Genie
the
omelet.
wastewater. Like you see those puddles over there? They're partly going to dry up, but some of that's going to run into a sewer, and some of that is going to end up in our wastewater treatment plant. Anything that leaked in this parking lot, any chemical that's used, anything that goes down the drain, not just your toilet, but your shower, your sink, ends up in wastewater. And so we not only can measure things like SARS-CoV-2, but any other disease you might have that's a pathogen, but any chemical you use, right? So at the beginning of the pandemic, we knew that mental health was going to be an issue because we were measuring antidepressant medication in the wastewater. We were seeing the concentrations go up.
Whoa.
We can tell that people use more sunscreen in the summertime. We can tell.
We've got someone in a car nearby listening.
I love this, and it's freaking me out at the same time.
You know what?
Right.
It would freak me out too. I haven't figured out, I don't think there's any way we can get individual information.
Right. That makes
So
Wow.
the other thing about community and public health through wastewater. Surprisingly, there's this big trend in wastewater, right? You think it's wastewater, let's get rid of it. Just like, I mean, the whole trend historically has been, let's just like put toilets in our house and flush it. We don't care where it goes, right? And it used to go into sewers because we wanted the sewers to take it away from our houses and our properties. And we're just going to rivers and lakes and oceans. Now we have treatment plants, so we treated before that. But still, for so many years, it was just like, this is not a resource. This is something to get rid of. We now realize it's a resource. It has a lot of information. There's a lot of energy in wastewater. There is recovery of nitrogen, phosphorus, and use for fertilizer. Lots of things you could do. There's actually gold and silver and platinum in wastewater. And while,
What?
yeah, again, anything you have, anything you use is in there. And while some municipalities will pay something like $500-600 a ton to get rid of their sewage sludge, there is about $300 to $400 worth of gold, platinum, and precious metals in sewage.
Oh, get out of here. Oh, now you done told everybody in New Haven. Now everybody's gonna be sifting.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, where does the gold
That,
come from?
that guy's getting a free education.
It comes from wherever. It comes from electronics. It comes from, you know.
Is that somebody joining in the conversation?
Hey, he's listening to a lecture without having to pay Yale prices.
Right? We could tell that traffic went down at the beginning of the lockdown because of cars leaking brake fluid, and we noticed they were leaking less brake fluid at the lockdown. Traffic stopped, and then as we got back into business, more brake fluid being leaked and higher traffic.
Right.
It just,
Wow.
there's a thing in the environment. If you make a chemical or if you use a chemical, it's going to end up in the environment, whether you want to or not, right? So that's, you know, maybe a cautionary tale for something like gold and silver and platinum, that a little waste is going to end up. But it's a bigger thing for like pesticides, right? Just the process of making them and using them, we can't control their fate and transport all the time. And you'll see, you know, for example, you'll see certain types of organic chemicals ending up in the Arctic as soon as they start being used. And when they're banned, you'll see those concentrations go down.
Right.
Wow. So you really have the key to saving the earth. You're like Will Smith. You know how to save the earth.
I'm just like one guy driving around collecting wastewater.
Well,
You need a
what
cake.
does day-to-day look like of doing this kind of work? What are you going to do when you head back to Yale for the rest of the day?
So I have to be back at 10 o'clock
Okay.
because I have a student has a PhD dissertation at 10 o'clock. So I have to be back for that.
Oh.
Be in my office because it's over Zoom. So I get to like sit down on my couch and have some coffee and watch the dissertation. So that's not so bad.
Nice. Okay.
But then I got to teach at 1 o'clock and I'm not totally prepared for it. And I was thinking I could take 3 to 1 to totally get ready. But now I got this dissertation. I don't know how long it's going to run. So we'll be okay. But it might be a little smoother if I had more time to prepare. Then after teaching, I just have meetings for research the rest of the day.
Okay. Got it.
But I spend my,
Wow.
you know, supervising students in my lab, writing proposals, looking for money, writing research papers, driving to the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah. to figure out the communications aspect of like enlightening people about what wastewater really does communicate to us.
Maybe.
Not part
These
of
are the
your
types of things that get thrust upon you.
right. That's kind of supposed to be our job.
I'm like the quiet, geeky, introverted engineer. So I would much rather sit in my office and write research papers. But, you know, things like disease, infectious disease, and for pandemics, if you have something that can contribute, yeah, you get pushed into that. That's one.
Right.
And we don't have any training for it. Can you tell?
It's just,
But you know what? That might be a good thing, so that you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a good thing, so that you can do your work honestly without all the other foolishness that goes around with politics and everything else.
I think that's right. I think that's right. But you know, the problem is people who are working in science are constantly doubting things, right? They're constantly asking the questions: is this right? They're listening to opposing views, always circulating around. I'm sure this is right. Can I get another line of evidence that this is right? That's a really great way to do science, but it doesn't play well in the public because often when you ask,
Because people are stupid.
that, they have a hard time giving you a certain soundbite. They have a hard time saying, well, we're kind of sure about you. There's this, and this. They always sort of try and hedge their comments unless they're trained not to.
right.
That makes
Right.
sense.
And it doesn't go over well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, so also you've been tracking COVID levels in wastewater since March of 2020 though? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So since the very beginning.
I was in Florida on vacation, spring break.
Mm.
We were thinking, you know, should we go to Florida? We decided to drive. So we wanted to check on my mother. And I started getting phone calls and from colleagues at Yale and people in the School of Public Health saying, you know, we don't have any way to monitor it. The testing is really bad. And we were thinking about maybe monitoring services and things like that. And then finally it was like, well, you know, they monitor wastewater for this stuff. Let's try that. And so, yeah, flew back. It was only 2 of us on the plane.
Wow.
From Florida. I'm thinking now maybe that wasn't such a wise decision, but anyway, okay. I flew back and yeah, we started collecting samples and trying to figure it out.
Wow.
Wow. That is so fascinating. You should get a Nobel Peace Prize or something. Like, that's amazing. Gosh.
Yeah. Do you have any last questions, Babs, too? We got to let Jordan get to the dissertation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So how much longer do you think this is going to go on? Like what does this evidence tell you? Does it look like it's dissipating? Does it look like we're getting out of the woods?
Well, here's the thing. So, okay, I'm going to try and hedge my comments. No, here's the thing. Anyone who tells you they know exactly how long it's going to go on doesn't know, right? So that's the first thing. The variables are that we have these variants and that we have this huge world around us that's not vaccinated. And so, whereas we have a lot of immunity in our community, right? More than probably half the people in city New Haven have been infected at some point. And we have big vaccination numbers and all that stuff. So we're pretty immune. And if we don't get any new variants, we'll be fine. But the variable is these variants of concerns developing in places where people aren't vaccinated. And that's much of the world. And if anything is shown, right, you know, it was right before Thanksgiving that we were hearing about Omicron in South Africa. And it was here in full force by December 15th. So let's hope that that doesn't continue to happen. It's pretty infectious right now, so the variant would have to be really infectious to overcome it. And if it does happen, let's hope that it's not severe again. So, but I don't know. I'm hopeful. We have a lot of immunity in our community. So.
Wow, this was good. I feel like I owe you some money for this. I feel like I owe you tuition for this class. This was good. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the
Thank you,
time.
Nora. Another good damn word on the street. Thank you. Have a nice day. Woo! Oh my God, I feel like if that's what it's like to sit in a class and get that kind of education, sign me up. That was good, Harry.